Hello everyone, my name is Amos Nimas and welcome to this new video. I like to start my video with a neo-fetch so that you have something to look at, so that you can see what operating system I use, what distribution of Linux I am using, and I want you to see that I am using Project Xena, which is my own distribution of Arch Linux. It was supposed to be called Arch, by the way, but I changed my mind. It's just gonna be called Xena because it looked cool. It reminded me of a show I used to watch as a kid, which had a very similar antagonist called Xana, and it had a very similar style, it's called Yoko, and I think it was made in France, and I liked that show as a kid. Not that I'm a big fan of it right now, but it left this impression of something that was very cool in the computer, this computer virus called Xana and all that. So I thought that was a better name for my operating system than just calling it Arch, by the way, because of memes. I mean, memes are great, but I feel like Project Xena is more serious, and it's more something that I can give my own style to, compared to Arch, by the way, which people would have expectation towards. I wanted to create something completely original. That's why I just took inspiration from a TV show from when I was a kid and computers were still something I didn't understand fully. And this video you might expect me to talk about this operating system, this distribution that I am making, but I won't, and for multiple reasons. First of all, I'm not sure I will release it, so for now I'm the only Project Xena user in the world, and it might stay like that forever. I mean, this distribution, I'm not sure I will distribute it. And there's multiple reasons for that, and one of them being that it's complicated. It's really hard to make a full-blown distribution that is compatible with all your, if you have a bigger screen, you need a bigger font, so it needs to be configured by the user a little bit. Like currently I'm using two monitors. I have a dual monitor setup, and just to record this video I had to tweak a lot of things, because basically, when you use multiple monitors, unless you mirror one of your monitor up to the other, unless you both monitor display the same thing at the same time and they have the same size, what will happen is that since you're using all of them at the same time, inside your computer, it merged them together. So when I tried to record my videos with a multi-monitor setup with BSPWM, what happened is that it recorded all the computer as one big monitor, and that was a format way too big to upload to YouTube, so it wasn't good. I couldn't use all the recordings I did with this configuration. So what I had to do to be able to make this video right now is to set the external monitor, which I use as a primary monitor, as my primary monitor, and set the default, because I use a portable computer, set the default display as a mirror of the external display. So it's complicated to do, and there's all of those things that I need to work out. There's still, for mounting USBs and like that, I need to fix a lot of stuff. It's not ready for release. It's a big task. I didn't expect to have that much work to do for what I wanted to do, and at the end of the day, it's not very much a distribution what I'm trying to do, because distribution, they're only package list. They're just list of package, pretty much. That's what the Arch distribution is based on what you can do. Otherwise, what you can do, you can have an ISO file, which is like a virtual CD that contains your system, and that might work, but again, I had some difficulty setting up the network by default, so that when you use if you put the virtual disk on a USB drive that you plug in it in a computer, that you'd have access to Wi-Fi, at least to the internet, network configuration, Ethernet cable and all that. with Arch, with an ISO, with like this was a lot of work. Sorry, I'm looking for the words. I'm searching, but basically it's a big task to do it as an ISO. So that's why I decided not to. Like currently, what I'm using it's fine. It works for me, and I will try to, as much as I can, have backups of all my configuration and all that, and I might make an installer that would basically, like a lot of Linux YouTubers have their own config installer, which is just a script that will copy your basic configuration file. Like that's it. It doesn't do more than that. So, and there's a lot of configuration, and some stuff can't be done with configuration file. Like you have all this systemd stuff that you need to do manually. Like you could, like, I'm not saying it's impossible. Like most thing on Linux, if you want to do something, you can. There's a way. But yes, that's all I had to say about my distribution of Linux. It won't happen. I kind of decided that this whole project was way too complicated, way more than I expected, and I was prepared to publish it, to release it, to have it as an ISO, and have you people have it. I was prepared to distribute my own distribution of Linux, but I decided not to because of all that I just explained. Like it's way harder than you would expect, and just for the web browser, like that's a small detail, but web browser, I like them to have basic feature. Like basically, I want my web browser to be in dark mode by default. I don't like a light theme web browser, so that's a basic component. I want every website to be in dark mode, and the web browser theme too, and the GTK application, I want them to be dark mode. I want my file like just the file manager. That's an interesting thing. With GNOME, you have a fully working file manager that allow you, like, you plug a USB, you can access it, you can open the terminal from the file manager and all that. And I think by default with Nautilus, you have super user privilege to do stuff with files. Or maybe you can set it so that it has permanent super user privilege and still has your config. Because basically when you give super user privilege to an application, most of the time, like for Nano or other similar programs, it will return to the default config for this program. And this ain't good if you have like a custom file manager that has themes and stuff like that. It will remove them. And like if I start PC Man FM, which is a file manager with sudo privilege, it won't use the GTK theme that I have set up. So that's disappointing. And you need super user privilege for a file manager if you're gonna use Linux as a desktop, because you want to be able to move file around, and you don't want the computer telling you you can't put file there, you can't remove this file, you can't copy this file. That's not what I want to hear. If I tell something to the computer, I want the computer to do it. Like that's one main component of my philosophy with the computer. I, as a user, must have absolute power. I do not want the computer to tell me I can't do something. It should warn me I shouldn't. It can ask me for a password. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I will do what I want to do. And I don't care how stupid it is. And that's my philosophy. And it's the same with Vim. Like if I go into Vim, by default, if I want to move down, I can't. If I want to move left, I can't, because the file is empty, there's nothing. But I made it so that if I use the arrow key, because people hate you use the arrow key in Vim, but at least that way I have an alternative movement. Like if I move left, I move left. If I move down, I move down. And all those trailing spaces, if I save the file, they will be removed. So that's important to remember. That's just for movement that I have those trailing spaces. Like if I insert something, they are replaced by spaces, and spaces won't be removed when you save the document. So you still have this D that is exactly where you wanted it to be. And yeah, the way I did this, like, let's do a test. Like, if I want to move down with the arrow key, again, I tried with G and it didn't work. That's why there was an error there. If I insert another D, as you can see, it moved the cursor on the left, okay, and the trailing space that was after the D stayed. There was a trailing space after the D. So again, if I escape insert mode and if I go down with the arrow key, I can move left. And right now, if I do insert, what will happen is that I'm in front of this trailing space. So if I want to be after the trailing space, it's simple. I just do A instead. And now I can type D. And if I escape, I don't have trailing space after the D. So that's the difference between insert and append. And I think this is already too much mental work. I like having a single key to insert character. I don't want to have dual key to insert character. And other text editor, basically they solve this by the way you move around. But like if I want to put something after the D and a normal text editor, that's what would happen. Okay, it adds a trailing space that you can then replace. If you really wanted to, I think you can just type R and then type E, and there you go. You see, you could do letter by letter that way, and if I want more than one letter, I could use the arrow key, move there, do insert, type whatever I want, and remember the trailing space at the end will be removed when I save the document. So it's all temporary. So yeah, if I will move with the arrow key, you can see I have no restriction of movement. I can move wherever I want and no restriction at all. And if I save the document, there won't be any trailing space in the final document. And I can show that to you by saving it. I don't know what was the name of the file because I just saved it, but the file had no name, so I don't know what it did. But as you can see, it removed the trailing spaces. There's only spaces where it was normal spaces, right? And yeah, no restriction of movement. That's the basic that I wanted in my Vim if I use the arrow key. But if I want restriction of movement, there you go. I still have the HGKL key, and I can move wherever I moved with the arrow key. So that's an interesting config. But as you can see, this ain't normal to me. That I move down and it moved me to the left. I don't like that. I like to be free. That's why my arrow key keeps me free. That's my philosophy. If I want something as a user, give it to me. If I say do something, I don't care how dumb it is, just do it. I will see if it saved the file somewhere. Like if I do it LA, is it somewhere in here? Maybe it's somewhere else. I don't know. I don't care, to be honest. So, but that's interesting. What happened if you save an empty file in Vim? Will it still save it somewhere as something? I don't know. I don't think so, but you never know. I could learn a lot with that. So that's what I had to say about Vim. I had to change a lot of stuff. I have a very large Vim RC. Like if I do cat.vim rc and I pipe that into WCL to know how many lines I have 227 lines in my Vim RC. And if I compare that to my Nano RC, I have 34 lines, and people tell me Vim is better. Nah, 200 is more than 34, and I'm as good with Nano than I am with Vim, with less configuration. And you could say that that's just me, and I would agree, that's me. But if that's what I see, that's what I'm gonna say. If that's what I experience, that's what I'm gonna share. That's my experience, personal experience with Vim and Nano. And yeah, that's the end of this video, folks. It hasn't been that long of a video, and I've talked about a lot of stuff. So this is a very condensed video content about. I talked about my own distribution. Sorry for the disappointment, but yeah, won't happen. again, I might try some smaller project, like making small video game in the terminal. That might be interesting. If you're interested, tell me in the comments below. You can leave a like, you can, ring the bell, do all that YouTube stuff that the algorithm love. And, I'm gonna work on some other project, and, yeah. Keep being awesome. Keep being there to watch this content that I make. Otherwise, I wouldn't have that much of a reason to keep making it. I don't do this for the fame and the money, because I don't have either. I really just do this because I think that the way I use Linux is a little bit different than most people do, including Linux YouTubers. And I have a cool project that I kind of want to share with you, but at the same time, if I'm going to sell my configs, I can't show it all to you. So as much as I want to encourage like open source software and people teaching each other, in my specific current situation, as much as I want to show you like stuff that you can do and stuff that will one day be available, right now it ain't. Right now that ain't the point. I'm not trying to, but at some point I will sell my entire config. Like that's something that will happen, and that's why I can't give it just for free right now. And if you expect video in which I go into detail about this config, that won't happen because of that. But what I can do is make other video about others topic. Others, like if I make a small video game, I could show to you how I would program it. Like you should try to program in Bash as much as you can, because first of all, it's a programming language that is open source by default. So most of my config are open source by default. That config files, if you share them, they're open source. And Bash files, Bash script, open source. It ain't compiled. That's the point. It's not compiled. And all the programming language that aren't compiled are open source by default. Okay, and I love that. I love like Python is like that. There's also Bash, like I said, and there's some language that are like this. And I think we should encourage that, like the open sourceness of stuff. And when I will sell my config, it will be open source. So if you really want to, you would be able to just copy it and put it back online and give it for free. But that would be like just like if you really want to share a config, that like instead of taking the config that somebody worked hard to do and just give it away in their place, like make your own config and give it away. If you can make a good config, if you think you could just do it, make your own config, I don't care, and then give it away. But don't take other people's stuff and try to give it away. Like that's a point I have about torrenting and downloading, streaming TV shows and movies and stuff like that. I'm not against it. Like if it's for your personal enjoyment, like if you're gonna download the last Marvel movie because you want to watch it, you don't have the money to watch it, or X reason, you don't want to subscribe to 100 movie streaming platform, and you decide, okay, I'm just gonna go online and take it, I don't care. But again, if you're gonna try to distribute it, put it back online, like that's where it's a gray area, and I won't go too much into detail about that. But basically with programming, I feel the same. Like if the creator want to share it, okay. If it's just for you, your personal use, and you find a way to get access to it, like okay, fine. But it's when you start to distribute it and make the decision, like it's a gray area. I don't know how I feel about that. It's philosophic. Anyway,